Welcome back to the ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will dive deep into the electrifying drama unfolding for the week of November 3rd to 7th, where alliances shatter, secrets unravel, and Port Charles teeters on the edge of chaos. In the shadowy corridors of scientific intrigue at General Hospital, young prodigy Emma Scorpio Drake is about to witness a seismic shift in her relentless crusade against unethical experiments. Originally fixated on exposing Professor Henry Hank Dalton's suspected animal testing horrors, rumors swirl of late-night vivisections on lab rats engineered for human-like response as Emma's path takes a dramatic detour when Jen Sidwell, the enigmatic operative with a vendetta against whistleblowers, shoves the formidable Britt Westburn directly into Dalton's fortified research domain. This calculated act not only derails Dalton's operations, but thrusts Britt, with her steely resolve forged from years surviving her mother's villainous legacy, into the helm of the project, rebranding it under her iron-fisted oversight. Emma, drawing from her own heritage as the daughter of super spy Robin Scorpio and the late Stone Cold Steve, had meticulously gathered evidence, like hidden camera footage of caged primates showing signs of cognitive manipulation, all aimed at dismantling Dalton's facade of legitimate medical advancements. Yet, as Emma pieces together the fallout during a clandestine stakeout, she uncovers Britt's ascension, complete with forged documents and a new security detail patrolling the labs, forcing her to pivot from her original foe. This revelation could unearth buried tensions from their shared past, including a bitter internship clash where Britt once sabotaged Emma's school project out of jealousy, potentially escalating into a mentor versus Sprota showdown that exposes deeper corporate espionage ties. Fans might speculate that Emma's next move involves hacking into Britt's personal server, revealing not just animal cruelty, but experimental serums linked to Port Charles elite, setting the stage for courtroom battles and ethical dilemmas that challenge the very ethics of medicine in their town. Shifting gears to the high-stakes world of espionage and betrayal, Carly Corinthos' cunning machinations are poised to deliver a triumphant payoff, solidifying her status as the queen of calculated risks in Port Charles, having whispered her devious proposal to Jack Brennan during a tense, dimly lit rendezvous at the Metro Court, suggesting he relocate the imprisoned Valentin Casadini to a less secure WSB facility just outside the city limits. Scarly watches as her words take root, with Brennan, ever the opportunist with his shadowy Interpol background, green-lighting the transfer under the guise of logistical efficiency. Valentin, the suave Russian heir with a history of dodging death from Casadini family curses to Siberian gulags, arrives at the new site battered but unbroken, his gratitude evident in the spark of his piercing gaze when Carly slips in for a forbidden visitation, disguised in a nondescript coat and wide-brimmed hat to evade the guard's watchful eyes, in exchange for her bold interference, which she orchestrated by leveraging Brennan's own vulnerabilities, like his lingering obsession with old flame Anna Devane. Valentin doles out priceless intel on undermining Brennan's empire tips, ranging from planted moles in his organization to decrypting his encrypted ledgers that hold keys to offshore accounts funding illicit arms deals. This quid pro quo isn't just transactional. It fuels Carly's simmering vendetta against Brennan, born from his role in framing her for corporate sabotage that nearly cost her the Corinthos empire, now evolving into a multi-layered revenge plot where she envisions luring him into a trap involving falsified evidence of treason. As the week progresses, their covert exchanges could ripple outward, drawing in Sonny Corinthos for backup and heightening the danger of double crosses, leaving viewers on the edge wondering if Carly's boldness will crown her or consume her in flames of retaliation. Amid the familial upheavals that define Port Charles' tangled webs, Portia Robinson stands at a crossroads of paternal claims that threaten to fracture her carefully rebuilt life, demanding she navigate the explosive rivalry between Curtis Ashford and Isaiah Gannon with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Portia, whose medical career has been a beacon of stability post her scandalous marriage to Marcus Taggart, now grapples with the resurfacing ghost of a one-night indiscretion from years ago. where Curtis, the suave club owner with street-smart instincts, and Isaiah, the charismatic newcomer harboring secrets from his military past, both assert fatherhood over a long-buried secret child, perhaps a teenage son, who's just arrived in town with cryptic letters hinting at inherited health issues, as tensions boil over in heated confrontations at the hospital cafeteria, with Curtis pounding the table in frustration over lost years and Isaiah coolly presenting faded photos as proof of their shared history during a brief affair in Baltimore. Portia must step in as mediator, her voice steady yet laced with the fear of losing control over her narrative once more. The impending DNA test, scheduled in a sterile lab room under the watchful eye of lab techs who whisper about the drama, looms like a guillotine, potentially confirming not just lineage, but explosive revelations about Isaiah's hidden agenda, possibly ties to international intrigue that could endanger the family. Portia's internal turmoil deepens as she recalls the emotional void of raising her daughters alone, weighing the pros of embracing Curtis' protective world against Isaiah's promise of adventure, all while fans theorize wild twists, like a Switch Tatbirth subplot that intertwines with the Quartermain legacy, ensuring this paternity saga becomes a powder keg of accusations, reconciliations, and heartbreaking choices. Behind the cold bars of Pentonville, Willow Tate's legal nightmare intensifies into a labyrinth of bribes, strategies, and unyielding support, painting her as the tragic heroine ensnared in a web spun by Port Charles' most vengeful players. Willow, the resilient nurse whose journey from cult survivor to devoted mother has endeared her to fans, faces a trial fraught with perjury charges stemming from her whistleblowing on hospital corruptions, now compounded by Nina Reeves' desperate bid to sway the proceedings through a hefty bribe to prison guard Jacinda Bracken whispers of $50. Zero tucked into an unmarked envelope during a supervised exchange in the visitation room. This illicit move backfires spectacularly when Jacinda, torn between loyalty and greed, leaks details to the prosecution, entangling Willow further in conspiracy allegations that could extend her sentence by years, forcing her to confront the irony of her own moral code clashing with Nina's obsessive maternal instincts gone awry. Enter Alexis Davis, the sharp-tongued attorney with a track record of toppling titans, who arrives for an urgent powwow in the grim interview booth, armed with case files outlining alibis involving encrypted emails and witness testimonies from fellow nurses who admire Willow's integrity. As they plot counter strategies, like subpoenaing Nina's financials to expose the bribe trail, Drew Kane bursts onto the scene with his military-honed determination, offering logistical aid such as smuggling in vital documents past security, though he hits roadblocks from his own sec troubles that mirror Willow's plight. Drew's involvement adds emotional layers, evoking memories of their shared losses and fueling a subplot where he uncovers evidence of tampered evidence rooms, potentially exonerating Willow, but at the cost of reigniting his feud with the Reeves clan. Through it all, Willow's resolve shines, her letters to loved ones hinting at dreams of reuniting with her family, keeping audiences hooked on whether justice will prevail or if Port Charles elite will bury her deeper in despair. In the opulent yet treacherous halls of the Quartermain estate, Laura Collins' keen instincts flare into full suspicion mode over Veronica Ronnie Bard's abrupt decision to offload the iconic mansion and vanish into the horizon, a move that reeks of ulterior motives and hidden puppet masters. Laura, the mayor with a nose for deception honed from decades unraveling Spencer family intrigues, recalls their last heart-to-heart in the sunlit garden where Ronnie spoke glowingly of roots and legacy, making this sudden listing complete with a for sale sign hammered in at dawn and real tall flyers touting the property's haunted history. For a quick $20 million strike her as profoundly off-kilter. Probing deeper, Laura uncovers breadcrumbs leading to Martin Gray, the slick lawyer whose silver tongue has brokered deals from mob settlements to inheritance windfalls, who apparently sweet-talked Ronnie into the sale during a private yacht meeting, perhaps dangling promises of a luxurious exile in the Mediterranean to escape mounting debts from Ronnie's gambling habits. If Laura corners Martin in his cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of legal briefs, she unleashes a barrage of questions about coercion tactics and falsified appraisals, potentially unearthing a larger scheme where the Quartermain fortune is the prize in a corporate takeover bid masked as real estate. This interrogation could strain old alliances, with Martin deflecting by invoking attorney-client privilege while Laura enlists Scott Baldwin for backup, turning the episode into a verbal chess match that exposes fractures in Port Charles' upper crust, leaving fans buzzing about whether the mansion's sale hides a darker secret like buried treasures from Edward Quartermain's era or a safe house for fugitives. Finally, as the week crescendos toward peril, Anna Devane treads dangerously close to elimination after peeling back layers on Jen Sidwell's insidious connections to Caesar Fazen's long-dormant projects, transforming her routine investigation into a life-or-death gambit. Anna, the WASB legend, whose career is etched with takedowns of global threats from the DVX to her own betrayals, stumbles upon encrypted files during a midnight raid on Sidwell's warehouse, detailing revival plans for Fazen's mind control serums once tested on unwitting subjects in Eastern Europe. Sidwell, a ghost from Fazen's inner circle with scars from botched experiments that left him with enhanced but unstable intellect, catches wind of Anna's meddling through a hack surveillance feed, immediately plotting her demise via staged accidents like a tampered brake line on her classic sports car or poisoned chalice at a diplomatic gala. Her awareness heightens the stakes, forcing Anna to loop in trusted allies like Frisco Jones for extraction plans while decoding Fazen's blueprints that could weaponize the town itself, perhaps targeting key figures in a bid for chaos. This brewing threat not only endangers Anna's physical safety, but psychologically torments her with flashbacks to her Fazen obsession. Next, we will learn about the explosive tension brewing in Port Charles as Willow Tate grapples with the fallout from Drew Kane's audacious real estate maneuver against Michael Corinthos. In the riveting October 29th episode of General Hospital, viewers witness Drew Kane laying out his cunning blueprint to Nina Reeves, revealing his intention to snap up the iconic Quartermain mansion that has long symbolized family legacy and power struggles within the elite circles of the town. This isn't just any property acquisition. It's a calculated strike aimed at unraveling Michael's carefully constructed facade of control, especially now that he's navigating the high-stakes scrutiny from the Quartermain board and beyond. Drew painted a vivid picture for Nina, explaining how this bold purchase could serve as the perfect diversion, pulling Michael's focus away from his corporate battles and toward a personal vendetta that might expose his vulnerabilities. Imagine the Quartermain estate, with its sprawling gardens and echoing halls filled with ghosts of past betrayals, now under Drew's ownership, a move that could reignite old wounds and force Michael to confront the erosion of his family's heritage in the most intimate way possible. Nina, ever the sharp observer of human frailties, couldn't hide her bewilderment as she probed Drew for clarity on how this scheme tied into Willow's precarious situation. With Willow still ensnared in the shadows of Pentonville's cold confines, Nina wondered aloud if acquiring Michael's ancestral home would truly pave the way for her release or merely stir up more chaos in an already volatile mix. Drew, undeterred, delved deeper into his rationale, asserting that Michael was teetering on the edge under relentless pressure from investors, family expectations, and the lingering specter of his alleged misdeeds. He theorized that one ill-advised reaction could cascade into a series of blunders, potentially costing Michael his CEO throne, his shares in ELQ, and even custody arrangements for his children, a domino effect that Drew relished envisioning. To add layers to this intrigue, consider how Drew might leverage the mansion's historical significance, perhaps hosting exclusive gatherings there to subtly undermine Michael's reputation, or uncovering hidden documents from the Quartermain archives that hint at Michael's past indiscretions, turning the property into a weaponized trophy. Yet, Nina's reservations lingered like a storm cloud over Port Charles Bay, as she challenged the notion that such a provocative buyout would shatter Michael's composure. She pointed out Michael's history of navigating scandals with the finesse of a seasoned chess master. From corporate takeovers to romantic entanglements that have left rivals reeling, but him unscathed, Drew countered with fervent conviction, predicting that the emotional sting of losing the family seat would ignite Michael's legendary temper, compelling him to retaliate in ways that scream recklessness, maybe a heated public confrontation or a desperate alliance with unlikely foes like Valentin Casadini. This exchange highlighted Drew's overconfidence, as if he held a crystal ball revealing Michael's unraveling. But it also underscored the high-wire act of their alliance. Nina's doubt injected a dose of realism, reminding us that in General Hospital's web of deceit, even the sharpest plans can snag on unforeseen threads. Expanding on this, one could speculate that Nina's hesitation stems from her own regrets over past manipulations, fearing that Drew's aggression might mirror the very tactics that once isolated her from Wiley and the Corinthos clan. As the dust settles on Drew's revelation, the real fireworks may erupt when Willow catches wind of this Mansion gambit, potentially sending her into a tailspin of anxiety and outrage. Locked away in Pentonville, where the days blur into a monotonous grind of suspicion and isolation, Willow has been piecing together the fragments of her shattered trust, increasingly convinced that Michael's shadowy hand orchestrated her downfall. Her mind races with visions of fabricated evidence and whispered deals in dimly lit corners of the courthouse, fueling a righteous fury that simmers just below the surface. Upon learning of Drew's ploy, Willow might envision it not as a lifeline, but as a lit fuse, accelerating the dangers she's already facing from Michael's calculated wrath. Picture her in a Stark visitation room, her face paling as Drew explains his vision, her hands clenching the table as she foresees the backlash. Michael, cornered, doubling down on efforts to silence her permanently, perhaps by tampering with trial proceedings or rallying influencers like Ava Jerome to spread damaging narratives. Willow's apprehension could stem from a profound understanding of Michael's modus operandi, one forged in the fires of their once tender marriage now reduced to ashes. Unlike the hot-headed outbursts of characters like Sonny Corinthos, Michael operates with icy precision, plotting revenges that unfold over months rather than moments. Think of his silent campaigns against rivals in the business world or his subtle maneuvers to protect his son from external threats. She might argue vehemently with Drew that provoking such a strategist won't yield cracks, but reinforcements, turning the mansion purchase into a catalyst for Michael's next scheme, one that paints Willow as an even greater liability. To deepen this dynamic, imagine Willow drawing on her nursing background for an analogy. Just as a patient's subtle symptoms signal a brewing crisis, Drew's overt action could mask Michael's covert preparations, like enlisting a private investigator to dig into Willow's alliances or exploiting her health vulnerabilities exacerbated by prison stress. Her meltdown wouldn't be mere hysterics, it would be a strategic plea, urging a pivot toward irrefutable proof over psychological warfare. Deepening the stakes, Willow's prison ordeal has amplified her paranoia, transforming every shadow into a potential Corinthos ploy. Ever since her arrest on charges that reek of setup, from planted documents implicating her in corporate espionage to anonymous tips that conveniently vanished, she's harbored a gnawing certainty that Michael pulled the strings to eliminate her as a whistleblower on ELQ irregularities. This betrayal cuts to her core, especially given their shared history of love, loss, and the miracle of their daughter Wiley, now caught in the crossfire of adult vendettas. Willow's fears extend beyond personal safety. She worries about the ripple effects on her family, envisioning Michael using his resources to sway social services or manipulate media coverage to portray her as unstable. In a heartfelt confrontation with Drew, she could recount fabricated memories of Michael's chilling demeanor during their divorce, where cold logic trumped emotional appeals, reinforcing her belief that escalation only empowers him further, adding speculative flair. Perhaps Willow uncovers a clue in prison correspondence, a coded message from a fellow inmate hinting at Michael's involvement with local enforcers that solidifies her resolve to expose him, judicially rather than through Drew's theatrical distractions. While Willow yearns for vindication and a swift path out of incarceration, She views Drew's approach as a perilous detour that could prolong her nightmare. Instead of rattling Michael into self-sabotage, she fears it will harden his defenses, making him more ruthless in concealing his tracks and ensuring her conviction sticks. The Quartermaine Mansion, once a beacon of unity, now looms as a symbol of division, potentially drawing in other players like Ned Quartermaine, who might side with Michael out of loyalty, or Tracy, whose sharp tongue could inadvertently aid Drew's cause. Willow's counter-strategy emphasizes forensic diligence, gathering digital footprints from Elk servers, securing affidavits from disgruntled employees, or even appealing to Jason Morgan's moral compass for insider testimony on Michael's schemes. This clash of philosophies, Drew's bold provocation versus Willow's methodical pursuit of justice, promises to fracture their uneasy partnership, testing loyalties in Port Charles' ever-shifting sands. Ultimately, alarm bells are destined to clang loudly in Willow's world as Drew's audacious step forward collides with her survival instincts, setting the stage for a cascade of confrontations that could redefine alliances and unravel secrets long buried. Fans of General Hospital should brace for Willow's visceral response, which might manifest in a tearful outburst during a tense phone call or a defiant letter outlining her alternative plan, pulling at the heartstrings while ramping up the suspense. As Michael absorbs the news of the mansion's sale, his calculated facade may indeed crack, but at what cost to those he once cherished? Stay locked into our channel for the latest twists, where every revelation in Port Charles peels back another layer of deception and desire.